The room was silent except for the soft hum of machinery. Zarek, a young officer of the Galorian fleet, stood rigid in the middle of the command chamber. His eyes were fixed on the large holoscreen floating before him. The message appeared suddenly, in glowing red letters. Reassigned to the humans. Proceed immediately. No one ever returns the same. Zarek blinked. Humans? He had read about them, studied their records, but he had never been close to one. The reports called them unpredictable, primitive, dangerous, but strangely resilient. His superior's voice broke the silence, calm but firm. Zarek, this is not a training mission. You leave in 5 standard hours. Study them. Survive. And return. Return. Zarek's voice wavered slightly. Yes. But remember, no one comes back unchanged, the voice replied, then the line went dead. Zarek's mind raced. Reassigned to the humans. Why him? He was young, yes, but he had never faced anything truly dangerous. The warning echoed in his head. No one ever returns the same. It was more than a caution, it was a promise. He turned to the equipment laid out before him. A sleek, silver transport ship waited in the docking bay. Its engines pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. Zarek's hands trembled slightly as he approached. He ran his fingers over the surface, feeling the cold metal under his touch. A part of him wanted to step back, but another part, something deep inside, urged him forward. Curiosity. The same curiosity that had driven explorers for centuries. The ship's interior was surprisingly compact, designed for efficiency. Zarek settled into the pilot's seat and checked the coordinates. The human planet, designated H-472, glimmered faintly on the navigation screen. Blue oceans, scattered green continents, swirling white clouds. On the surface, life thrived in chaos, unpredictable and untamed. As the engines roared to life, Zarek felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The ship lifted off, leaving the familiar structures of the Galorian base behind. The stars stretched into streaks of light outside the viewport. He wondered what he would find. Would humans be hostile? Friendly? Or something entirely different? After hours of travel, the ship entered the human planet's atmosphere. The descent was rough, turbulence shaking the craft violently. Zarek gripped the armrests, trying to steady his breathing. Finally, the ship landed in a dense forest. Tall trees with thick trunks surrounded the landing site, their leaves rustling like whispers in the wind. Zarek stepped out cautiously, his sensors scanning the surroundings. The air was thick, warm, and humid. Strange sounds echoed all around him, chirps, growls, and voices in languages he could barely recognize. Humans. Alive. Real. And closer than he had ever imagined. Suddenly, a figure darted between the trees. Small, fast, and oddly graceful. Zarek's heart pounded. He activated the translator on his wrist, hoping to catch a word, a signal, anything. "Who are you?" the human shouted, though it sounded more like a command than a question. Zarek froze. He had studied humans, yes, but nothing could have prepared him for this moment. The human was nothing like the simulations or reports. There was fire in their eyes, a raw defiance that seemed to challenge the universe itself. Before Zarek could react, the human disappeared again, vanishing into the dense forest. His mind reeled. Was this a scout? A warrior? Or something far stranger? As night fell, the forest came alive with sounds. Zarek set up a small camp, trying to remain unseen. He watched the humans from a distance. They moved with purpose, yet unpredictably. They laughed, argued, and sometimes fought fiercely over seemingly trivial things. But there was a strength in them, something Zarek couldn't measure, couldn't predict. Hours passed. Zarek recorded everything, noting their strange behavior, their courage, and their relentless curiosity. But a sense of unease crept over him. He remembered the warning, no one ever returns the same. What did it mean? Surely he was just here to observe, not interfere. Suddenly, A loud scream pierced the night. Zarek froze. A group of humans ran past his hiding spot, dragging one of their own. The injured human's blood stained the forest floor. Zarek's sensors detected panic, fear, and determination. They refused to leave their companion behind, no matter the risk. Zarek felt a strange sensation. Confusion. Admiration. A growing sense that these humans, fragile and reckless as they seemed, were unlike any species he had ever encountered. They were unpredictable, yes, but also incredibly resilient. And something deep inside him shifted. As he watched, a small fire flickered in the distance. The humans had lit it, a symbol of their unity, their defiance against a world that was harsh and unforgiving. Zarek realized then that this mission would not be simple. Observation alone might not be enough. Survival, understanding, and adaptation would be required. And as the stars shimmered above the forest canopy, Zarek whispered to himself, a mixture of fear and wonder in his voice. Humans! What have I gotten myself into? The night stretched on, filled with strange sounds, distant screams, and the unending mystery of a species that defied all logic. One thing was clear: nothing about this mission would be ordinary. And nothing about him, when he returned, would ever be the same. Zarek awoke before dawn, the forest still cloaked in mist. The sounds of humans stirring reached his ears: footsteps, whispers, the occasional laugh. He had spent the night observing, recording, and thinking. These creatures were unpredictable, chaotic, and yet, strangely fascinating. Every move they made defied the patterns he had memorized from reports and simulations. He packed his small camp silently and followed at a safe distance, careful not to be seen. The humans were moving toward what appeared to be a village. Simple huts made from wood and leaves, smoke rising from small fires. They were unarmed mostly, yet their posture suggested readiness. Zarek's sensors could not measure courage, but he sensed it in every step they took. Suddenly, a group of humans paused near a narrow river. One of them slipped, falling into the water. Without hesitation, another human plunged in after them. Zarek froze, unsure whether to intervene. The first human struggled against the current, but the second held them tightly, pulling them to safety. Zarek's translator processed their words. "Don't leave me. We survive together." The simplicity of it struck him. Humans did not act alone, even when survival was at stake. They fought, argued, and sometimes failed, but they never abandoned one another. It was remarkable. As they reached the village, Zarek stayed hidden, observing. The humans worked together to repair the huts, start fires, and organize food. They shared tasks, shared stories, and even shared laughter. The chaos he had expected was there, but within it, he saw order, not from rules or commands, but from instinct and care for one another. Zarek adjusted his instruments, trying to record every detail. Every behavior he saw challenged the logic he had been taught. Humans were not predictable. They were not easily categorized. They adapted. They survived. They inspired. Hours later, a loud roar echoed from the nearby forest. A massive creature, clearly predatory, emerged. It was unlike anything Zarek had seen before. Its sharp teeth glinted in the sunlight, and its eyes focused on the humans. Panic spread among the villagers, but they did not run. They picked up sticks, stones, and whatever they could find. One human, small but determined, shouted commands, rallying the others. They worked together, confusing the predator, leading it away from the vulnerable. Zarek's heart raced. Could they succeed? Logic said no. Strength said no. Yet, they did. With courage, cunning, and unity, they drove the beast back into the forest. Some were injured, but none were lost. Later, Zarek reviewed his recordings. No simulation or report had ever captured this. Humans were not just survivors, they were warriors, thinkers, and leaders all at once. And the officer felt something he had never felt before: admiration. As the sun set, the humans gathered around a fire. Zarek observed from his hiding spot, noting their stories, their songs, their laughter. One young human, wounded from the earlier attack, smiled despite the pain. Another helped them up, offering food and comfort. Zarek realized that these creatures thrived not because of strength alone, but because of resilience, compassion, and determination. Night fell, and the forest grew dark and silent. Zarek, exhausted but unable to sleep, reflected on what he had learned. The mission had been simple: observe humans. But he could not remain an observer forever. He felt a pull toward them, an urge to understand, to be part of their world even if only briefly. Suddenly, a noise shattered the quiet. A scream, human, terrified, echoed through the trees. Zarek moved cautiously toward the sound, keeping low. Ahead, he saw a human trapped beneath a fallen tree. Their friends were trying desperately to lift it, but the weight was too great. Zarek hesitated. Interfere, and he would expose himself. Stay hidden, and the human might die. His mind raced. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but this moment demanded action. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, using his strength to lift the tree just enough for the human to escape. The humans froze, eyes wide. Then, slowly, they stepped back, unsure of what to make of him. Zarek held his hands up, showing he meant no harm. The wounded human nodded in gratitude, their eyes showing trust even in confusion. That night, Zarek returned to his hiding spot, shaken and thoughtful. Humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also extraordinary. Brave, loyal, and unexpectedly clever. They did not follow logic blindly, yet they survived and thrived in ways he could not predict. He remembered the warning from the command chamber: no one ever returns the same. For the first time, he understood. It was not just a threat. It was a promise. Anyone who truly witnessed humans, who truly understood them, would change forever. Zarek lay awake, staring at the stars above the forest. The humans below slept, safe for now, unaware of the alien observer who had just saved one of them. He realized that this mission was not just about studying them. It was about learning from them, about seeing what it meant to be alive, to struggle, and to endure against all odds. And deep inside, Zarek felt a spark of something unfamiliar: hope. Not for himself, but for humans. Perhaps these unpredictable, chaotic, and wild creatures were the key to something greater than any logic or science he had ever known. As the night deepened, Zarek whispered to himself, barely audible, "Humans. I am beginning to understand you, and I fear I will never be the same." The days on H-472 passed in a blur of observation, danger, and learning. Zarek had begun to move with the humans rather than just watch them. He kept his distance, but he could no longer deny the pull they had on him. Every day, they challenged his understanding, every action tested his logic, and every emotion he saw made him question everything he had known. One morning, the humans were moving cautiously through a dense valley. Their faces were tense, eyes darting constantly. Zarek followed silently from the trees above, noting their strategies, their teamwork, and their ever-present courage. Then he saw it: a massive chasm blocked their path. Across it, a treacherous cliff with jagged rocks and a roaring river below. Most species would retreat. Humans paused, hesitated, and then began to construct a bridge from fallen trees and vines. No blueprint, no instructions, just instinct, intuition, and stubborn determination. Zarek watched in awe as they worked together, lifting heavy logs, securing ropes, and encouraging one another with words and gestures he could barely comprehend. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed. Part of the makeshift bridge shifted, and one human slipped, dangling above the rushing river. Zarek acted instinctively, launching forward with alien speed, grabbing the human just in time. The human gasped, eyes wide with shock. "Thank you," they whispered, still trembling. Zarek realized something profound. Humans faced danger not with perfect planning or strength alone, but with courage, ingenuity, and trust in one another. He had always relied on logic, on rules, on predictability. Humans relied on something else: faith, instinct, and sheer willpower. As they crossed the river safely, Zarek stayed back, observing the bond between them. Injured humans were tended to by their companions. Those afraid of heights or water were encouraged, never mocked. Pain was met with care, fear with support, and danger with bravery. That night, a storm swept through the valley. Torrential rain, lightning flashing across the sky, and the wind tearing through the trees. The humans huddled together under makeshift shelters, wet, cold, but unbroken. Zarek watched them from a safe distance, recording every detail. A lightning strike ignited a nearby tree. Sparks spread quickly toward the humans' temporary camp. Without hesitation, they leapt into action. Some fought the fire with water from the river, others used mud and leaves to smother flames. One human shouted instructions, guiding the others with confidence and determination. Despite the chaos, they saved their camp. Zarek felt a strange warmth in his chest, emotion he had never expected. Pride. Admiration. Something deeper. He realized he was no longer just an observer. He was part of their story, connected in a way that logic could not explain. The next morning, the humans discovered a wounded alien, another observer, like Zarek, who had not survived a previous mission. The humans hesitated, unsure what to do. But one of them stepped forward, offering water and food, treating the alien with care despite the danger it represented. Zarek understood then that humans did not see life in terms of friend or enemy alone. They saw value in survival, in courage, and in choice. They acted from instinct, morality, and heart, not just strategy. Over the following days, Zarek's own instincts began to change. He started to anticipate human behavior, not through logic alone but by feeling their intent, understanding their emotions, and learning from their unpredictable methods. The lines between observer and participant blurred. Then, disaster struck. A massive landslide began on the ridge above the humans' village. Rocks tumbled, trees crashed down, and a deafening roar filled the air. Panic spread among the humans. Zarek's sensors screamed warnings, impossible odds, high casualty risk. But the humans did not flee blindly. They formed chains, guided each other to safety, and rescued those trapped beneath debris. One human, small and nimble, darted into the falling chaos to save another, defying every prediction Zarek had made. He rushed to help, but they were already gone, emerging moments later with the rescued human in their arms. Zarek could not deny it any longer. He had been changed. The human's resilience, bravery, and loyalty were contagious. Every action challenged his perception of strength, leadership, and survival. He had come to study them, but they had begun to teach him. That evening, Zarek stood at the edge of the forest, watching the humans settle around a fire. Their faces were smeared with mud, sweat, and blood, but they laughed, shared stories, and comforted each other. He realized they were not just surviving, they were living fully, defiantly, and courageously. For the first time, Zarek understood what the command had meant. No one ever returns the same. It was not a threat, it was truth. Anyone who truly witnessed humans, who truly understood them, would change forever. Zarek felt a strange mixture of fear and awe. Fear because he now saw the universe differently, and awe because he had glimpsed something rare, something powerful. The humans were fragile yet unstoppable, simple yet extraordinary. As night fell and the firelight flickered across the humans' faces, Zarek whispered to himself, "Humans, I am no longer the same. I see you, and I understand that nothing I knew before matters anymore." Above, the stars shone, cold and distant. Below, humans laughed, sang, and cared for each other. And Zarek realized the truth. Their spirit was something no logic, no science, and no alien wisdom could ever predict. It could only be felt, witnessed, and understood. The transformation was complete. The observer had become more than a spectator. He had become a part of something he could never leave behind, and he knew that when he returned to his own world, he would never be the same again. The journey back to the Galorian base was quiet, almost painfully so. Zarek sat in the pilot's seat, hands resting lightly on the controls, but his mind was far away. The stars streaked past the viewport, but they no longer held the same fascination. Everything he had known about logic, order, and predictability felt incomplete. Humans. The word echoed in his mind like a heartbeat. Their courage, their chaos, their inexplicable strength, it clung to him. He had gone to study them, to observe and report. Now, he carried something far greater, understanding, and a truth that would forever change him. When the base came into view, Zarek felt a strange hesitation. He had survived the mission, recorded all observations, and technically completed his orders. Yet he was not ready to return to the cold, structured world of Galoria. The humans had taught him something no report, no simulation, could. Upon landing, Zarek was immediately met by his superiors. Their eyes were sharp, expectant. "Report," one of them commanded. "What did you find? Are humans a threat?" Zarek paused. The words felt hollow. Threat. How could he convey what he had learned? That humans were unpredictable? That their strength came from their hearts, their bonds, and their courage? That any attempt to measure them by logic alone was futile? "They are extraordinary," Zarek said finally, choosing simplicity over complexity. "They are dangerous in ways you cannot predict. But also powerful. Stronger than we imagined, not just in body, but in spirit." His superiors exchanged glances. Zarek knew what they were thinking. Exaggeration. Sentiment. Fear of the unknown. But he had seen it with his own eyes. He had felt it. And he knew the truth could not be dismissed. As they questioned him further, Zarek realized he could not go back to the person he had been before the mission. The humans had changed him. Their defiance, their resilience, their compassion, it had left a mark on him, deep and permanent. He understood now what the warning meant: no one ever returns the same. Days passed, and Zarek's reports were filed, but his mind remained with the humans. He thought of the small gestures of kindness, the acts of bravery, the moments of laughter in the midst of danger. Every memory was a lesson in courage, loyalty, and hope. He began to see the universe differently. Strength was not only in power or skill, but in heart and spirit. Leadership was not only in command, but in trust, empathy, and courage. Then came the day when Zarek returned to the observation deck. Alone, he activated a small recorder. "To anyone who will follow," he whispered, "do not underestimate humans. They are chaotic, unpredictable, and sometimes reckless. But their spirit, it cannot be measured, controlled, or destroyed. They survive where others fail. They inspire where others fear. They remind all of us, what it means to endure, to hope, to live." He shut down the recorder and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans continued their lives, unaware of the alien who had witnessed their courage. And yet, they had changed him in ways that no one else could. Weeks later, Zarek returned to training and missions as if nothing had happened. His superiors thought he was the same officer they had sent. But inside, he carried the human spark, a fire that logic could not extinguish. He found himself questioning orders, thinking beyond rules, noticing courage and hope where others saw only chaos. The humans had become his teachers, and their lessons were permanent. Late one night, Zarek closed his eyes and remembered the first time he saw them. Small, defiant, daring to survive against impossible odds. The memory brought a smile, warm and quiet. He knew now that he would never look at life the same way again. He had been reassigned to humans, and the warning had been true: he would never return the same. A soft chime on his wrist alerted him to a new mission. Zarek rose, preparing as he always did. Yet, as he stepped toward the door, he carried something different with him. Something no orders, no training, and no starship could ever teach. Faith in the strength of the human spirit. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and unknowns. But Zarek no longer feared unpredictability. He had seen it embodied in humans, and he understood now that courage, loyalty, and hope could overcome even the most impossible odds. He stepped out into the corridor, a faint smile on his lips. Somewhere far below, humans laughed, fought, survived, and lived. And Zarek knew, without a doubt, that they had changed him forever. The stars stretched ahead, endless and unyielding. But within him burned a spark ignited by humans, unextinguished by time, distance, or duty. It was the mark of a species unlike any other, and Zarek knew he would carry it always, no matter where the galaxy took him. Humans. Chaotic. Unpredictable. Powerful in ways the universe could not measure. And he, Zarek, had witnessed it. He had learned from it. And he would never be the same. The universe seemed larger now, filled with possibility. For the first time, Zarek felt hope, not just for himself, but for what humans could achieve. And somewhere deep in the stars, he knew their story was only just beginning.